Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Morning Sam, Morning Ralph. This is Paul Molinari from Popcorn GTM, and this is the podcast for restaurant technology professionals. Thank you, everybody, so much for your support with this pod. It is awesome. Our numbers are going up every single week. This has really been an incredibly pleasant surprise. This week, I have a really special guest. Um, I've recently been named to the board for the Celiac College Guide, which is incredibly exciting. I'm blown away, and I'm so honored to be asked to do this. And it is particularly um, exciting for me because I have a child that has celiac disease. And this is something that impacts our family greatly. And it seems like once you have a kid with celiac, you start bumping into other people with kids with celiac. And it's remarkable. So today, my special guest is Nicole Sherrin-Kessler. She is the founder of the Celiac College Guide. Let me give you a little bit of her background, then I'm going to introduce her and we're going to have a great conversation. Nicole is a career educator. You're going to get, when you listen to her and hear what she's going to talk about, you're going to, this lady is a hell of a teacher, you can tell. So she's got over 20 years experience.
No
and the
pressure
mother of,
now. Okay, yeah.
let me do my intro to you.
Oh, all right, all right.
You pipe down, lady. As I was saying, 20 years of experience and the mother of two daughters with celiac disease. She was named Teach for America's National Teacher of the Year, receiving the prestigious Sue Lehman Award for Outstanding Teaching. And she's held various leadership roles in education, including serving as a principal, as a district leader, and a charter school administrator. So her success as a leadership coach has been featured in multiple case studies, and she's also served on her local board of education for 7 years, where she was recognized for her fundraising efforts for celiac disease. So with that, Nicole Sherrin-Kessler, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Now I can say thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, it was, a little bit of background. We kind of met in a weird way, so to speak. My wife and son went to a gluten-free food festival expo.
Gluten-Free expo, yep.
Yeah, gluten-free expo, and it was remarkable because it was only held a couple of miles away from our house in a really large, like basketball
That's
slash
right.
indoor soccer arena. It was a huge place. And it was like standing room only there. They had booths all over the place. There were literally people being carted from mall parking lots over. It was just massive. And it was a huge indicator to me, like, this is insane. Does anybody in my industry really know, like, how big gluten-free is? And it was, so my wife met you and then we got introduced.
Yeah, just like you said, celiac parents find each other, right? There's that connection we have right away. And you're exactly right. Like the community is so large, it's about 1 in 100 people or so, right? They say have celiac. And so I think you're spot on that people really haven't embraced how robust this market is. And for people with celiac, as you well know, right, it's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of necessity to eat gluten free. And so I think there's a lot of need out there and probably some opportunity out there for the people that you work with and support.
There probably is, and we'll get to that for sure. But why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what Celiac College Guide is?
Sure. So the Celiac College Guide, first, it's a nonprofit and it's free for users. And so it's a directory of how over 700 colleges and, and universities approach gluten free dining and support. And so we have information from a number of different ways, publicly sourced information, and then information from schools themselves. So we've had 65 schools so far who have signed on to give us really detailed information about how they approach gluten-free dining and support. And then we have reviews from students themselves, because that's obviously really important for prospective students. They want to know, what is this really like? And we set it up in such a way that it's easy to use, I think, and it's helpful at different parts of the college search. So, you want to say, "Hey, I'm looking for," and I could show this later if you want. Oh, you're showing off for me there.
I'm showing up
Um,
while you're talking, and we'll get
isn't
into
it
it. I just
pretty?
want,
Yes, thank
yeah.
you. And so there's a lot of different components. There's a free accommodations guide, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that at some point because the accommodations process is something that's really important for kids with celiac. And depending on where you end up and what the kind of food setup is, that should change what you ask, some things about celiac disease. And then, of course, we have the really powerful search engine, which I'd be happy to.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely get into that. And let me stop sharing that for a moment. But one of the interesting statistics, I spent obviously a lot of time on your website, and as you know, I have 3 college age students. My youngest is the one with celiac, and it's a huge, gigantic concern. This is like the first time people are, a young person is leaving the house, right? They're going to be on their own, and it's already bad enough when they have all of their friends and everybody wants to go to Chick-fil-A, um, or McDonald's or whatever, and they're the ones that sometimes are even held back. They're very restricted by what they eat. Talk to me a little bit about college kids and those preparing for college and what families and parents are going through, while they prepare for this next chapter as celiac.
Yeah, so there's a lot there, right? One of the things that, I saw and that prompted this. Well, can I tell you two things that I saw that prompted this? One was I read a study about what was happening for kids with celiac on college
Yep.
campuses. And that haunted me. And that the kind of like, I'm a working mom of 3 kids, right? It wasn't overnight. Oh, let me just go
Right.
and do this thing, but it haunted me. 50, it's a few years outdated, but this study said 50% of kids with celiac routinely weekly skip meals in college because of safety concerns, right? So just like you said, Paul, they're going from the comfort of their home where, listen, we all have a learning curve. Like celiac parents know, right? There's a learning curve to figuring out what this is even at home to then have to step out into this world where, you have to trust, right? So 50% are skipping meals. A quarter of the students reported getting gluten routinely, monthly. And
Yeah.
I think about my daughter. My daughter gets gluten, she throws up till she passes out, right? This isn't a matter of preference. This isn't a matter of
Right.
convenience. The implications are sweeping. And then just like, you kind of got out there with like there's social impacts, the statistics on the social impacts, the academic impacts, whether it's, missing class, the brain fog, all of it. So there's a huge snowball. So this is important, right? And so in the same way that when other people are thinking about college and fit, they're like, my kids want, big sports. I want a big school. I want a suburban school. Your kid seems like urban schools. You think about what's right fit. What people haven't thought necessarily enough about is the idea of being able to eat safely. But
Right.
but people do, right? And so one of the things I noticed, and again, one of the things that prompted this was I saw parents scrambling to get this information, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, parents desperately, does anyone know what it's like at NYU? Does anyone know what it's like at Boston College, my alma mater? Does anyone know what it's like at UConn? Whatever the case may be, desperately trying to get information and information they can trust. And it's a mixed bag as far as how readily available this information was in college campuses on college websites, and certainly not in like one good, reliable, centralized place that kids and families could use.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think your website, which is done remarkably well. I mean, it's just so intuitive and easy to use, whether you're a student or a parent or a school administrator or a dietitian, whatever you are as a stakeholder. It's easy to find schools. It's easy to find what their meal plan, I guess, or their
Their
profile
approach.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
their approach, their dietary approach. Um, Let me ask you though, Nicole, like how you mentioned you have a daughter with celiac. Was that the impetus for this? I mean, tell me a little
Yeah,
bit about how this became personal for you.
Right. So, I have two daughters with celiac, but one of the things, again, that I know is when your child is diagnosed with celiac, food goes from being, hey, where do we want to go out? What's our preference, to have to think about safety, to have to think about trust, to have to think about being like vigilant at all times. And so I started to project ahead. And my older daughter is now a sophomore in college. I read the study and I thought about what we go through just on a daily basis in the safety of our home or on a weekly basis and trying to figure out, can we even go out to eat safely?
Right.
And then having to be away from home and putting that trust. And so that really was. And then again, seeing, kids and families scrambling online for this information, I just knew there had to be a better way. And part of my working theory, Paul, is that I also don't believe that people who are in dining services are out to harm kids, or out
Of
to hurt
course.
kids, right? And so,
Right.
on one hand, we're trying to build this directory with all this really helpful information, but then we're also trying to impact change. And a lot of like my theory of action is people want to do right by our kids. And so, is it a matter of getting the information out there, sharing best practice, helping people prioritize this as an issue, awareness? And so, the other thing we try to do is to lift up best practice, because there are schools out there doing this well, doing it right. And so, like if you go on our social media, our Facebook, our Instagram, it's all lifting up examples of how people are doing it. And that's part of my hope. I actually had a dietitian out of school tell me they were poking around, looking at what other schools are doing, trying to figure out, like, hey, what are
Right.
people doing out there? I had that experience speaking at a conference with about 40 schools in attendance. And they were like, "What are you doing? Oh, you have gluten-free ambassadors who are older kids at the school? What a great idea. I'm going to start that." And so I know even by, facilitating the sharing of information, whether it's directly through the guide, through the social media, through, an in-person presence, that's the stuff that's going to impact change.
Yeah, and listen, I think just as a quick offshoot, I mean, from with the business wheels always turning in my head, what an amazing recruitment tool,
Correct.
to,
Correct. Yeah.
as a differentiator for a school. I mean, my goodness, when you have, roughly 3 million people in the population that are, have been, I guess, diagnosed with celiac, or have celiac disease, and then you include the those folks with wheat allergies and those folks that are non-celiac gluten sensitivity, you're talking about between 6 and 46 million people that
A lot of people.
that are impacted here. That's not a small number. And when you combine that with the family aspect of it, where you have a kid or a parent or somebody in the family is affected by this, that changes the whole entire dining dynamic for the whole family.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Going back to your restaurant world for a second, I always think of this example of we would go out to eat at a restaurant. I won't name the restaurant. And they had basically one gluten-free product that my daughters loved. And they did away with it because that gluten-free product wasn't a moneymaker for them. And I said, but now you lost our whole family, and you lost 10 other families that I know that was going there. One kid might have been eating it, but we were all going to your restaurant because of it. And so I think you're spot on with this need, this
It's
opportunity.
truly like a force multiplier. I mean, it is a force multiplier. If you can successfully market yourself as being a safe haven for celiac families, or wheat allergy families, uh, I think that's a pretty massive differentiator if you can pull it off. And Lord knows I think it's just a matter of awareness.
Well, someone, I was speaking with one of the people involved in dining services in Tufts, and she was saying the number one food, allergen, or it's not technically an allergen, but you know what I mean, that they get by far is gluten free or people with celiac. Why? They have a gluten free dining hall. So, to your point, it becomes a place that, people with celiac, gluten free, flock to. And so it's
Yeah.
not a surprise that that's their number one because the word gets out, it's important to people, and they know, hey, that's a place where we can go and eat without worry, right? College kids have so much to worry about. I mean, we think about the process and how stressful that is. Then you
Right.
get there and you have all the other stressors with being, a college kid. And so, taking that worry off of them also a big deal. No, you've had two
Oh,
go
it
through,
really
right?
is.
Your
I mean,
mother
listen,
went on.
it's actually remarkable what happened. Being somebody that's lived through just the constant worry. My son is my celiac son. My poor celiac son. He would
I know.
kick my ass if he
My older daughter
my
my younger daughter is so into this. My older daughter is
yeah.
mortified that I talk to anybody about this. She's like, "Stop talking about me. Stop talking about
That's
that I
fine.
get sick. Leave me out
No,
of
but
this."
here's the thing. I have like a client of mine. Their son was recently diagnosed with celiac, and up until that point, it was crazy. Like they never know what's wrong with this kid. Why my son for years he was on played sports, was very active with sports, but would always get hurt, and and we never really understood why. Your brother didn't have this. You're just as act. And as it turns out, well, his body just was not absorbing the nutrients. But you know, and and once that celiac diagnosis came in and we changed the entire way that he eats, it's like all of the injuries went away. He's now, you know, he's running with the best of, he's out in the field like everybody else. It's really remarkable what this disease can do
And I think
to,
people lose sight of the fact that it's exactly that. It's a disease. It's
yeah,
autoimmune, and autoimmune, I mean, it wreaks havoc on the bodies. It shows up in so many different ways. And actually, we were sort of joking about it, but it's a bigger point, right? They don't want to be the celiac kid, the celiac son, the celiac daughter. And so the more that schools can create systems and procedures and eating opportunities that allow, they just want to blend in and be normal and be regular and eat with their friends. One of my favorite accommodations that we recommend that some
yeah.
schools do, I know RISD, for example, put this in their
You know
list of.
what? Let's hold right there. Let's
Okay.
use this as an opportunity to check out the site and maybe go to some of these profiles and talk
Sure.
about let's I don't know, let's check out RISD.
You want me to share my screen? Or
Do you
you
want to
wanna
share
do it?
your Yeah, go ahead. Share your screen. I just want to make sure that my wonderful podcast software records it.
Alright, well
Yep, there we go.
okay. Should I go?
Go for it.
Okay. So I can't see you anymore, so let's look at some of these college verified profiles, like you said. So I started to talk about RISD and the accommodation. So these are all the schools that had there's my alma mater, there's a number of great schools in here. Dartmouth just recently got theirs. They did a great job. So we can look through it that way, but let's search up here. Road. We want you to be able to find these schools in a number of different ways. So Brown,
Mhm.
road. There we go. Okay. So, what you can see here, so at the top is the information, the sort of information that we have on those 700 schools that we did research on. So, if you go in here and you search a school, and you can search either by typing the name in, like I just did, or you can say, "Hey, I want a private school in the Northeast that's small and competitive." I can show you how to do that if you want. You can also search that way. I wanted it to be user friendly for different parts of the college search process. So, the type of information that we have at the top is what should be in here for those 700 schools, a contact information, where you can go find more information about gluten-free dining. Because believe it or not, for so many schools, took me a while to even find where you can get the information, what kind of gluten-free provisions we were able to find, and then a little bit about the school. Then, once a school claims a listing, this is where they can get into a lot more detail about things like how are they training their staff. This one uses Allergen through Menu Trinfo, what kind of accommodations. Look at this one. This is what a great idea. Can you imagine, Paul? You see what I highlighted there?
Wait, what accommodations does the school provide for students with celiac disease, including housing accommodations? Students can request to live in a single and/or close to the largest dining venue that has a dedicated gluten-free station. That's fantastic.
And why is that important? Let's see if you could. Why would it be important that they could live near it?
Why? Because they get hungry and they
because
want to go get something to eat.
they good answer. They wanna
They-
get it they wanna go they're hungry, they wanna get something to eat, they wanna be able to roll out of bed and do it, and they're gonna be much more likely the social impacts are sweeping at college, right? You
yeah.
want to if you have celiac, you might be willing to, schlep across the campus to go to the gluten-free station, but are your roommate's going to do that, or is your buddy down the hall going to do it, right? You're going to be much more likely, if you live near that gluten-free station, to also be able to go hang out with your friends there, and again, live that as close to normal life as we want, that experience that we want for our kids. So this is the type of information, and this is the type of thing, right, that schools are now poking around and seeing what each other we're doing. So we're talking about grab and go meals, whether they have a dedicated gluten-free pantry, etc. So that this is the sort of information that we have on those 65 schools that have claimed their listing, and we're getting new schools signing on all the time. And this is what parents are really looking for. It's very helpful for them. We also have reviews. So let me put in my alma mater, Boston College.
How do you know when somebody went to Boston College?
Oh, how?
They'll tell you.
I'm sorry. If the listeners, if you're not on the like a visual podcast, what I said was whatever. I just want to make sure the listeners on Spotify, etc., are hearing that. Okay. You probably cut that.
Uh,
That's okay. So we also have the reviews, right? Because people want to know, what's it really like there? And so reviews, it literally takes college kids, because I couldn't put a lot of barriers for the college kids to do this. If we're trying to get them to take the time to leave reviews, it takes about 3 minutes. They don't have to log in, they don't have to sign in. They go, click, and then you'll see. So they can give a little description and then rate the colleges on overall safety, variety, taste, accessibility of gluten-free
Beautiful.
food and accommodations. Yeah.
Coup
So you're trying to make everything as user friendly as possible, but also, be really
couple of questions about
yes,
the
sir.
listings.
Yes.
Uh, so this is good. Once you come back to the
Okay. I
screen
was
now,
just gonna
couple of questions about the listings themselves. Do colleges have to pay to be listed?
they do not. It's
So
free.
any college can claim. Are they claiming a page, or are
We
they
call it
asking to
claiming
be
the
listed?
listing, which I know sometimes has sounded like very like official for
Yeah,
colleges, but that really is just the term for it. And that's how they enter their information. Like you said, it's free advertising at this
yeah,
point to get the word out there. So yes, it's absolutely free.
yeah. I would imagine that any school's nutritionist or dietitian or whomever is in charge of the dining facilities would serve themselves and their school well to be listed there. And I know that you and your team are doing an incredible job with getting those listings, like you said, all the time. What about
I
the?
heard one of my board members helped me get a call today with a school. Would you happen to know who that was? This guy, Paul? Yes, I have a lot of people out there helping to get the word out.
Yes, NYU will be on there, and hopefully all of
They,
the yeah
yep, I had
that
a great conversation with them today.
they do. By the way, if you're looking at NYU, they do an amazing job for with regards to celiac and all allergens.
Well, plus you're in New York. I mean, you have the whole gluten-free world at your fingertips there. So
Yeah, you
doing
do,
something
and
good.
that's frankly but it is one of the reasons why we wanted New York because because of that. It's a major factor in almost all decision making. It really is.
It is.
So tell me, so with regard to the website itself, it's free to list. Um, it feels like you give the college almost as much space as they need to accommodate all of their descriptions and approach.
Yes.
As far as students can also, they can leave reviews as well. And do they need to create an account, or is that something that anybody can do?
No, they don't have to create an account. They do have to enter an email, but that's it. Again, I didn't want to have, I knew the second I started to put barriers to college kids from filling this out, I wasn't going to get anything. And so, there's an approval process. So I read it over if something sounds off or it's really outdated, I don't
Yeah.
approve it or I'll fact check it. But so it does get approved by me before it goes.
Let me bring this back to the restaurant industry for a second. Are
Sure.
you getting any help from the industry or industry players like the Aramarks and the Sodexos or any of the food service providers that might be supplying these schools, with
So
contract
the
food
answer, I'm
services?
going to say not yet, Paul. That's the answer, not yet. I think that there are a few things that they could think about doing. One, I mean, what a great place to advertise, right? Because I have this market of kids and families, but I also have this market of colleges, right? I have
Right.
contacts at 700 schools. I'm meeting with schools. I'm talking to them all the time. We're lifting up best practice, so different places do this differently. Um, so, I certainly think that's something they could think out about, but I would also push this out to my schools. So if I worked for one of those organizations in a central way, and in fact, I'm going to have a conversation shortly with one of the bigger food service providers like that for colleges,
Mhm.
because I'd want to push this out to all my schools and say, hey, you all have these allergen-free stations, like, get it out there, let people know, oh, you have a buddy program, you're allowing for kids to request dining near there, you have a customized program where they can order any version of whatever's on the, you make sure that what you're serving gluten-free kids mirrors as closely as possible to what other kids are doing so they don't feel as other. That's the sort of stuff that parents want to read about, right? It's really
That's
that
right.
opportunity to bring it to life. So I would encourage my schools to do it as well. As far as I think you mentioned restaurants in general, one of the opportunities too is to advertise, and we have the capability to do advertising in a localized way. So, if I'm out by my husband's alma mater, Penn State, and I'm a restaurant
Mhm.
there, I probably just want to advertise at Penn State. But if I'm a restaurant in New York, you can also advertise on all those schools because people that are looking in those places and people that are looking at those schools also want to know, where can I order, a gluten-free meal, etc. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to get their own brand out there and to get their own word out there.
Yeah, certainly. One of the growth areas for our industry, of course, is the college campus, and we're
Mhm.
seeing lots and lots more colleges having these food courts with traditional restaurants there, whether it be, you know, a Five Guys or a Potbelly sandwiches
That's
or a
right.
Starbucks or, you know, all of these restaurants and their affiliated franchisees are looking at the college campus as another landing zone for their brand. And I'm wondering, does the guide afford the college or university space to talk about their restaurant partners at all? Like, we also have, I mean, is it all celiac all the time, or are you also kind of giving sort of the larger approach to their entire dining? No.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes,
Yeah,
Paul. So
yes,
there was a lot of questions once, but here's what I'll say. So a few things. One,
that's what I do. Yeah.
yeah, listen, I can rock with it. That's why we get along. So one, there is some open space on there for them to talk about whatever. And one of the questions is actually about local restaurants and things like that that colleges can talk about. Um, Two, where was I going with this? All celiac all the time or all gluten free all the time.
Right.
A lot of, and I've actually explained this to people. So more colleges than not, the solutions that they're describing in this Celiac College Guide are actually typically like allergen-free stations, these like top
Right.
9, top 8 allergen-free stations. So I've actually said to people like, listen, I have a friend whose kid has nut allergies that's exploring this. And I said, don't let this be the final thing on that. But it's not a bad starting point. If you filter by gluten-free stations, rough estimate 95% of the time what it's actually going to pull up is allergen free station. So go poke around my guide, like circle that. So it's not just, even though it is of course pitched toward gluten free, it's not just about that. The
Yeah.
last thing I'll say, loosely related to what you're asking about, is I think another real opportunity for food providers and potentially equipment providers, right, is this idea that schools are in the process of really reworking and trying to improve how they do this. So they're adding in stations all the time. They need equipment for that. They need technology for that, right?
Yeah.
Additionally, I mean, I've been in multiple conversations with schools where they're trying to figure out, they're trying to make, let's say, their gluten-free pantry better. So, what supplies can they put in there? What frozen meals should they have in there? What gluten-free protein bars are they going to have in there? And so, I do think that this market is a big market and growing market, and that, I am one of the people that are having these conversations on the ground with schools through things like these conferences. I think in the future we will be having more additional roundtable discussions and things like that. And so
Yeah.
there is a lot of opportunity here. I really believe there is.
Yeah, without question. All right, let's move this towards the what I like to call the lightning round.
Oh,
The lightning round of the Morning Sam Morning Ralph podcast. Let's a couple of quick questions for you. What's the most inspiring feedback that you've received so far?
well, inspiring slash not inspiring. You don't like to follow rules. I don't like to follow rules. What I hear over and over again is actually from people that have gone through school that say, this is exactly what I needed and I didn't have. And so I don't know if inspiring is the right word, Paul, but it's
Oh, it's
motivating.
inspiring.
It's motivating. It inspires me to work harder. I hear it over at those expos. It's heavy. It weighs heavy on my chest. People talking about having
Yeah.
to transfer schools. I can't tell you how many people have told me they've literally had to transfer schools because
Wow.
of this. And they said, this was what I needed when I went through. So inspiring
That's
ish.
huge. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that's got to make you feel
it's
like this is
motivating.
it really is. All right. So give me what's your dream goal for CCG, for the College Celiac Guide 5 years from now? What do you want? Where do you think the guide's going to be?
My dream goal for the College Celiac Guide is to shut the whole thing down because colleges and universities are doing so well that I don't need to have it anymore. Not sure that was the answer you were expecting,
No, I'm
Paul, but
hoping, from your lips to God's ears, kid. I
that's
really
the
hope so
ultimate
too. I
goal.
hope 5 years from now, it's just like, whatever, man. Every college's got this, and just, it's just one less thing that we need to freaking think about.
Exactly.
Um, so, all right. So you have a predominantly gluten-free house, couple of kids in there. Like, so what's your go-to gluten-free snack?
Well, funny you should ask. My latest go-to gluten-free go-to snack are those GFB bites, because they're protein for they have tons of protein.
Yep.
Do you know where I'm going with this, Paul? He's already
Yeah.
laughing. They're dairy free, B Corp, all of that. And with code college15, you actually can get 15% off, but 10% goes to us. But my kids love them. Let me tell you something. Anyone that's listening that knows my two girls will appreciate this. When they both agree on something, it's good. So I've been, and I have athletes, two of mine are athletes. So I'm like always trying to shove protein down their throat. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we're now like newly obsessed. We love the birthday cake flavor. That's our favorite. So, generally speaking, I think as much as you can like not have to substitute things, that's what we like the most. But yeah, that's our new obsession.
Awesome. That's really cool. I'll just say for me, I like those Trader Joe's Good Crisps. They look like Pringles, but they're not.
Oh yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
have a version, a different kind of. Oh no, that is what we have.
Yeah.
They have little containers too, and the big ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah. I don't. I think we get them at Trader Joe's. I don't know. Maybe you should get some at Whole Foods. They're
yeah.
freaking.
We order from
They're
Thrive.
Pringles,
We
but
actually
they're.
order them from like Thrive Market. I don't know. Yeah, they get delivered to my house.
Um. I don't know. My house is nuts. I mean, we do the farmer's dog now to
Ah, so do we.
like everybody. It's like
Spoiled dogs. Oh my
we.
god.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
My dog lives
All
here.
right,
So,
let's
yeah.
wrap things up with some final thoughts. What are your so? Give me. Do you have any final thoughts or something or advice for gluten-free students and parents preparing for college? I mean, what's your quick advice for these folks?
Quick advice. One, make sure you are factoring this in, right? First, think about the kind of school you want, narrow it down, and then really make sure this is a consideration. Two, ask lots of questions when you visit. Don't be shy, right? The dietitians tell me they get tons of questions, and that's okay. And then I also think they really have to find the model that works best for them. So, for
Yeah.
example, my younger daughter would do great with an allergen-free station. She'd pull up, get some chicken, rice, call it a day. She doesn't need variety. Like, it'll work for her. For my older daughter, who gets all of her protein from nuts, from soy, from dairy, whatever, like, it's not going to be as good of a model. She's going to either need something made to order or a kitchenette. So, figure out, also go visit lots of different models, use the guide, find the ones that work, and then go see it in person, experience it, ask to eat there. Most dining, you can either pay or they'll just give it to you when you're visiting. Ask to eat there.
Yeah.
We ate 4 different schools
Yeah.
when we went around Boston. And so, like, start to figure out what's the right fit for your child, because that's important too, even within the gluten-free dining
Oh
room.
my God. Can you imagine like your kid like loves the college, made friends, everything is going awesome. And then at the end of their freshman year, they're like, this is just, I love it here, but this is just not working for me because I can't eat. Can
It's heartbreaking.
you
And
imagine that?
You
Ah,
know, and again, like, if you're in a place, especially if you're in a place, anyone should look for accommodations and think about what they need, but especially if you're in a place that's not meeting your needs yet, we're going to use my favorite word, yet. Think about those accommodations. Maybe you can get your meal plan waived, right? Those things are expensive. If they can't meet your needs, maybe you can get that
right.
waived. Maybe you can get a car on campus so you can go out and get groceries if you're not in NYU, where you could like Uber Eats it to yourself equally.
Oh yeah.
You know,
And that's so free too, by the way.
so free, so
That's-
free, I'm sure. Yeah, just like sending your kid there, I'm sure is also so free, Paul. Think about, do you need a kitchenette, right? Is that going to be a better ultimate solution for you? So we want to get, the goal is to get the colleges to do this right, but in the meantime, figure out what you need and push and advocate. It's a recognized disability, and I think people lose sight of that.
Absolutely. Nicole Sherrin-Kessler, this has been absolutely amazing.
It has. Thank you for having me.
Where can our listeners go to support and hopefully donate to this incredible cause?
We would sure appreciate that. So the website is www.celiaccollegeguide.org. Facebook is the Celiac College Guide. Instagram is Celiac College Guide. And I now have a pop-in LinkedIn page
Yes, you do.
because Paul helped me and made me. So that's a growing page as well. So look for us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I will make sure to try to pump up the Celiac College Guide as well wherever I can. This has been a fantastic conversation. I love what you're doing. You are doing God's work. There's no doubt about it. Thank you for everything that you do, Nicole.
Well, and thank you for being a part of it. You already have helped so much, and this is great. And I know we're going to do great things together. So
And
it really
here's are
is.
shutting this shit down, baby.
We're going to do it. And donate, like you said, people. Those would be really
Yeah,
helpful. So
donate. That's important. Nicole, awesome. Thank you very much. We'll talk. We'll talk soon.
we will. Thank
All
you.
right. Ciao.
Morning Sam, morning Ralph.